Hello aspirants, this is me Yasmin Gill presenting to you the PIB highlights of 21st of January. So do follow all these videos on this particular link, plus do not forget to rate and review the same. So let's begin. Today there are very less news items, particularly for prelims. So we'll be covering mainly the articles or which came in Indian Express as a part of main series. So let's begin. Firstly, health issues. This was in PIB. So certain small snippets of what are the forthcoming challenges in the health sector. Though once in detail we have covered a lot regarding it. So this is focusing on just one aspect, which is non-communicable diseases. So while earlier communicable diseases were the main targets, but now what has happened is that non-communicable diseases are coming up, and these are mainly the lifestyle diseases. For example, we have cancer, we have diabetes, hypertension, and so on. So these non-communicable diseases, they today account almost 60% of the total mortality in India, which is a big amount. Also, other than that, the main problem with non-communicable diseases is that our manpower is not sufficiently equipped to handle this. Our doctors, etc., not sufficiently equipped. Other than that, such diseases require a lot of financing. So a lot of out-of-pocket expenditure take place because the treatments are usually very long. So what is government doing regarding it? Firstly, under NHM, that is National Health Mission, there is a proper screening procedure going on for 5 diseases, which are these: hypertension, diabetes, cancer of 3 types, oral cavity, breast and cervix, 3 of them most popular one. Other than that, ground level training has to be given to whom? ASHA, ANM are auxiliary midwives. So they are the ground workers of the health sector. So proper training will be given to them to track major risk factors, because such diseases are mainly due to lifestyle. So in case certain risk factors are found, for example smoking and so on, obesity, so in that context appropriate measures can be suggested. Plus, how this overall process would be implemented, it will be implemented in phases. So this screening procedure, in its first phase, it will be covering 100 districts in 32 states and UTs, and in subsequent phase, other than these 5 diseases, another disease, that is chronic obstructive respiratory disease, would also be added, and simultaneously the districts will also go up from 100 to more than 100. So this is how government is planning to tackle non-communicable health diseases. Then we have certain small snippet, which is Manipur, Meghalaya and Tripura. Do remember they have a common statehood day, and also mention in the comment section which was the year when these 3 states were formed. So we usually get a question in UPSC, right? So regarding the order of the state formation, which we also do in our Lakshmikant polity book, right? So do check into the year when these states were formed. They were formed in a common year. Next, coming to international relation, we have a topic from Indian Express. So this is regarding the Trump presidency and its implications for India. So interesting enough, the author C. Rajamohani analyzes 2 main aspects. One is the economic consequence, second is the political. So political is just one line which we have been doing since many days, that is the multipolarity versus unipolarity debate, right? So we'll be doing it again. Other than that, we have mainly the economic focus in this article. So firstly, going into a small background, in the past few years, US and India have been sharing a very good relation. In fact, we have been steadily improving in our relationships. Also, in the part of India, we have overcome our past hesitations, as we commonly refer to as. So what are these past hesitations? We were mostly aligned to Russia, though we were following a non-aligned movement, right? But we were mainly aligned to Russia, and we were mainly, I would say, at an arm's length from US. But now that distance had been overcome in past few years, even during the time of Manmohan Singh and even during the current Prime Minister. And this was not even just from our side, even from Washington, appropriate measures were taken. For example, Washington let the Kashmir be a bilateral issue and stopped to interfere in it. Simultaneously, nuclear dispute was almost solved, business relations grew, and most importantly, India's diaspora saw a big representation in America's domestic politics. So in that context, this was very important. This shows the strength of our diaspora. But now what has happened is that, going through the background, but now Trump has come and we have entered into an unpredictable phase on economic and political front. So economically, we will face various issues. For example, migrant issue, because Trump would be against open borders. Then liberal economic order, and most importantly, see, earlier US used to balance Asia's politics in a way. How? Because it used to keep its forces towards China, South China Sea and so on, and making alliances towards Vietnam, Japan and so on. But now what has happened is that Trump has spoken of that this particular defense alliances, they take a lot of money, involve a lot of money from US budget. In fact, the taxpayers have to pay too high a price for American alliances, and therefore these alliances would be subdued and the troops might be called back. So in that context, China's power will also rise, right? So that is one implication. Other than that, we will now witness a protectionist US, at least till now as per the rhetoric goes. So in this context, H1B visa systems will again come to news, and outsourcing of work, which is usually given to states and cities like Bengaluru, that might also suffer. Plus, right now, see, Trump, though he says that he will not be following TPP, that is Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is a good news for us because we were anyway not participating into it, right? But this is not that much a cause for celebration. Why? Because various other countries, they are very into it, and they will bilaterally negotiate with US, and in case certain negotiations and free trade agreements go on taking, India cannot stand being isolated. We then have to involve, or we will be at the receiving end. So that is the economic implication. Politically, yes, we were pushing for multipolarity with China and Russia, but now we have to also check about the care that it doesn't turn into a unipolar Asia, that is China doesn't grow that much. So we have covered this issue substantially well in the previous days as well. So why is this important? Because with time, Russia and China may give up this very funda of multipolarity, and I would say take the chance whenever, as and when it permits, and go on for a sustainable deal with Trump. So India must not just stand on certain ideals, and we must pragmatically use our diplomacy to our best to pursue the national interest. So this is how the discontinuity with the presidential change can be solved. Next we have under economy, random collections. Agriculture Ministry conference is going on in Berlin, Germany, about which we covered 2 days back too. Other than that, water is a frequent issue there. So what Agriculture Ministry have spoken of, let's go through it. So there are two sort of countries depending upon the water availability, per capita water availability. One is water stressed, other is water scarce. So the appropriate values are given. When do we call a country water stressed and when do we call it water scarce? That is not important. The important point here is that India is already a water stressed country, but now we are moving towards being a water scarce. This will promote more and more of water based fights among states and so on. Other than that, two main points which was spoken of in this conference is India has the highest production and productivity competitiveness of castor. Castor is an oil seed, so we are the highest producers, and as well as even in productivity we are number one, and this is owing to the water use efficiency as well as the hybrid technology that have come up in castor. Other than that, India also tops the world rankings in the terms of milk production. Next, under environment, we have a very good topic, that is a new balance. So this is also from Indian Express. So firstly, what is it we are talking about and why are we talking about it? See, Environment Ministry has recently asked non-official experts. So what happens is, to give environmental clearances, we have certain appraisal committees. In these appraisal committees, there are certain official members and certain non-official members. These non-official members are actually independent experts. So Environment Ministry has asked these experts to fasten the environmental clearances and move on with the government's mission of ease of doing business, so eBiz, right? So move on with that particular mission and fast track the procedures, fast track the clearances over the next 3 months. Fine enough, not that bad an idea, but sufficient care should be taken that the Environment Ministry itself doesn't merely turn into a clearinghouse, and the main job of it, that is checking into the environmental repercussions, for example the natural resources sustainability and so on, are they properly checked or not checked. And this is also more important because right now whatever the data we have on various industrial projects, that data is either very less or the data is manipulated or dubious. So in that context, time has to be spent, and therefore too much fast tracking might be dangerous as well. So other than that, two broad themes of thought are going on, which is, first one is, we are seeing environment and economic growth as anti to each other. So we think that if we want to pursue economic growth and we want to build up new industries and so on, environmental clearances are something which comes into way. So this is a wrong thinking. Secondly, Environment Ministry is itself judging its own performance on the basis of the number of projects it's cleared rather than the quality of project it clears. So that these both are the very wrong line of thoughts which Environment Ministry is following right now, and it must keep a check that it doesn't turn into a clearinghouse merely. So this is one issue, and you can answer this question regarding it. The question asks, environmental governance has taken a backseat in India with the talk of environment versus economic growth gaining more ground than environment and economic growth. So discuss in context of the fast tracking of environmental clearances by MOEF. Next, under security, we have another interesting topic that is related to defense reforms. So why are we talking about it? Because Army Chief has recently broken the silence which the Army usually kept upon the Cold Start Doctrine. So let's first understand what this Cold Start Doctrine means. So it had its origin in 2001 parliamentary attack. So what happened at that time was that Indian forces could not mobilize in a faster manner. Because of this lack of mobilization in faster manner, Pakistan got the time to counter mobilize. So at that time, we as a lesson thought of that we must now go for Cold Start Doctrine. What does Cold Start Doctrine actually mean? See, it means to break down the whole unit into small integrated battle groups. These groups will be very fast, very compact in nature. Each group will be having its own armor, artillery and even aviation support. So this is the concept. But this concept has its own limit. Though you have to follow this offensive strategy rather than defensive, though you have to go for this offensive strategy, but you must keep into check. What is the check? That Pakistan's nuclear threshold shouldn't be crossed. So we must provoke Pakistan only to an extent that it doesn't crosses its nuclear threshold. Otherwise, there will be a big nuclear war. So this is a very practical doctrine. In fact, it was seen in the surgical strikes as well. But in order to implement it further on as a proper strategy and proper policy, a very dynamic leadership is needed at all the levels. And there's a big risk also in following this particular strategy. And what is that risk? It is deterrence breakdown. Do use this word. Now, deterrence breakdown, what is it? See, we are following Cold Start Doctrine to enable a deterrence among our hostile neighbors, that is Pakistan as well as China, mainly towards Pakistan. But what will happen is that this doctrine is being misread by Pakistan, who is now on a nuclear spree. It is building up more and more of nuclear weapons. So this might result into South Asia turning into a theater of nuclear armament. Other than that, this might lead into a full-scale war as well. So that is the risk associated with it. Overall, if we look at the talk of Defense Minister Army Chief, that shows a big openness in the defense discussion, which is a positive point indeed. So initially till now, why did we keep silent? We kept silent. There are various issues and various topics. Everybody has given its own interpretation. Some say it is a sort of pacifism. Some say this was strategic restraint. Some say that political disinterest, and some said that this was bureaucratic indifference. Some even gave the excuse that this might have compromised security, and so we did not speak about it. Whatever be the reason, this actually I would say the non-speaking of it actually backlashed us. Why? Because this created a security dilemma. Now, no hostile neighborhood knew what we were pursuing, whether we were pursuing Cold Start or not. And in that context, what happened was that there was a sort of mistrust. And in this mistrust, basically a nuclear race had begun, and a strong India-Pakistan-China triangular rivalry had developed. So this is one point related to Cold Start Doctrine. The other thing which the author says in the particular article is related to other defense reforms which are needed. So quickly we'll go through them. Firstly, say defense usually considers bureaucracy to be incompetent enough to go through the defense projects, and they say that there should be a specialized bureaucracy, a permanent one, to deal with the defense projects, because they are very complex in nature, and therefore bureaucracy and civil servants, bureaucracy and the defense people should work together in this. Also, Chief of Defense Staff, that is synergizing all the three forces, they should be working together. This will help us in management of equipment in a very good way. Plus, restructuring of the military industrial complex. Right now, even for our basic hardware, we have to depend on various other imports. Then he talks about creating a Ministry of Defense Technology and Industrial Production, which should comprise of three departments: land, aerospace and maritime. These three departments each individually should have under them clusters. Clusters of what? Research labs, production units, etc. These clusters should be formed in PPP mode, and as far as FDI goes, the author speaks that this should be done as and when necessary. So this is the question regarding it, and these are certain MCQs. Do go through them, friends, and that's it for today. If you find the initiative useful, do not forget to rate and review the same. Thank you so much.